So here we are, we're in Papa John's, and what we're doing is we're taking some time to put some videos together. We're noticing when we go through the stores is that we're just missing some knowledge. What we want to do is get that knowledge into the store, share techniques, share secrets of the trade, to make things easier, make things more smooth in your operation. Dough management can seem very complicated, but it's actually very, very simple. We know that there's 4 criteria for dough. The first one being the size, the second one being the age, the third one being the temperature, and the fourth one being spring back. If we're doing our dough management, we should never have to worry about the number 4 one, which is the spring back. Another note is when you take the first letter of each of those, it spells SATs. I always say SATs on the dough. That's how I kind of remember that acronym for the criteria for being able to use a dough ball. So first thing, when we're in a walk-in cooler, we're not going to be inside the walk-in cooler while we do this, but here we are out here. We have this set up, so we have day 1, day 2, and then day 3 dough. And so what we want to do when we're in the walk-in cooler is we want to set up each day of our dough. We get that information from our M-Dog. It tells us how much dough we need for day 1, how much for day 2, and how much for day 3. Then what we do is we put those in stacks, and we should have this every single day, day 1, day 2, day 3. And if we're doing this right, the very next day after a day's worth of business, this stack is gone, these 2 stacks move over, and all we do is we just rotate the tags from one to the next one, okay? Then tomorrow, what would happen is we would create a day 3 to be able to have our day 1, day 2, day 3. So once we do that, the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna check the age. We want to make sure that we don't have any expired product, or we don't have product that's underage. So you can't use day 2 dough and you can't use day 8 dough. If we're doing our dough management, we're going to be checking to see where our volume is for our dough, and we can act accordingly. We either need to move some dough to another store, or we need to receive some dough, or as Goldilocks says, we're just right, okay? So the second thing we're going to do when we get into a walk-in cooler and we have this set up, and after we check the dates, the only other thing we need to worry about is the size of the dough. So when we come in, if we've been doing our dough management every single day, we shouldn't have to worry about day 1, okay? But on day 2, we're gonna check it, and we're gonna actually open up the tray, and we're gonna just check the size of this, okay? And if it's the right size, we don't have to do anything, okay? That's the good thing. If it's not the right size, we're gonna have to do something to it, okay? And then we're gonna do the same thing with day 3. We're gonna open it up, we're gonna look at the size, and we're going to see if it's the right size. Again, if it's the right size, you're not going to do anything to it. You're just going to leave it like it is, okay? But if it's not the right size, it's too small, then we're going to do something to it. We're going to touch base on that right now. So on day 2, if it's not the right size, we're going to bring it outside the walk-in cooler. But what I've done here is I've taken our stack for day 2, and it was a stack of 11, okay? And what we've done is we've broken that down, and you want it to be in sections of 5, all right? And what this does is it allows all the dough to evenly prove. If you leave it up in a full stack, what's gonna happen is in the middle of it, in the middle of the stack, it's gonna be insulated. And so you're gonna have the top and the bottom that's gonna warm up nicely, but the middle isn't going to do anything, is what you're going to find. So what we got to do is we got to break it apart into sections of 5. So this is only a stack of 11. I just put 6 and 5 here. If you have a stack of 23, then you would do 5, 5, 5, 5, and 3. Okay? So you just want to break it down into 5s every single time. That's the golden rule on breaking down the dough. And you do this only on day 2 dough. Okay? Whenever you're setting up day 2, this is what you want to do. Right? And then what you're trying to do is it's going to take about 4 hours, okay, 3 to 4 hours on this dough to get it up to 50 degrees. And so when this timer goes off, you're going to come back over, and this is going to be about probably 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You're going to come back in, and you're going to restack everything back up, and then you're going to put it right back into the walk-in cooler. And then you're done for the day with pushing dough. when we're pushing dough, okay, I call this a hard push, okay, on day 2 dough. This dough is getting done outside the walk-in cooler. You are not going to push dough inside the walk-in cooler. You got to bring it out so you get some warm air into it, so it can get moving. The warm air activates the yeast. All right, and so if the dough is fine though, everything's going to stay inside the walk-in cooler. All right, so what we have here is we're on day 3 dough, and again, what we're doing is when we're in the walk-in cooler, what we're going to actually do is we're going to actually look at the size. And that's the main thing that we're doing in the walk-in cooler is checking the size. Again, what we found is the size is not the right size on this dough, and so we need to make it just a little bit bigger. So the rule is when it comes in on the truck, it's got to be 2 times the volume and 25% wider. So what we're going to do is, because day 3 dough is not the right size, what we're going to do is what I call a gentle push. Okay, so day 2 is a hard push. Today is just a gentle push, and what I mean by a gentle push, we're going to take each tray off of this stack and we're going to break it so that warm air will actually get into each stack. And what this does is, while we're doing this, is it puts a little warm air into each tray, and that's going to activate the yeast so that it will start to grow just enough so it won't be overproof by the time you actually need it. So we don't want to leave it out for too long because it's going to be a day early and you're going to have some huge dough balls with a lot of gas, which makes it a lot harder to make a really beautiful pizza if it has too much gas in it. So what we want to do is we want to time it. A lot of things in our business is about timing. Same thing like our cheese, but our dough, we're doing the same exact thing. We're timing it to bring it out so that it'll get to the right temperature for the dinner rush or for lunch or whatever we're going to use that dough ball. So it's really important, again, to break each tray because we're putting warm air into every single tray.
It's important not to use truck dough because the truck dough comes off the truck very solid and very cold. It is very hard to make a pizza with that. It's hard to stretch it out to its actual size.
It has no flavor.
No flavor. You're gonna have a huge gel layer in there. It's not gonna cook all the way through. And really, it's just gonna make a really bad pizza. Okay, and it's coming off the truck. It's probably around 34 degrees, and it's really hard on your hands and the dough machine itself, where you won't be able to actually stretch it to its right size.
Tap it out. So you'll spend a lot of time doing this. Or if you have the right dough at the right temperature, you're going to do 3 to 4 slabs, and then you're going to lay it down. Whereas if you have a hard dough, it's cold, you're going to slap it, you're going to lay it down. All of a sudden, it's going to shrink. You got to pick it back up. You got to slap it. Then you're going to lay it back down, and then repeat the process. So you're going to spend a lot of time wasted out on the production area when you're trying to make pizzas. And so everything you do with your dough management is going to set you up for success out on the production line.
The importance of dough management really is to make sure we have the right size, the right temperature. The temperature is very important because we don't want to use too cold of a dough, and then you're going to have pizzas that come out super light, super doughy in the middle, and they will not be able to bake correctly. They're in the dough, which basically just means it's not cooking the pizza all the way through. You'll see this mostly with pizzas such as Canadian bacon pineapple. Those are the ones that are going to be the biggest problem. The pineapple is already cold as it is, and it's wet and soggy, so you're going to create even just that much worse of a pizza itself. So really important to use the dough between 50 and 60 degrees. Make sure your dough is not blown. Maybe that's where you get all the bubbles. Really just making a focus on dough management.
To make things quicker, faster, easier. Dough management done first thing. So really, you're going to go into your office, you're going to clock in, print off your M-Dog, check for delayed orders, assign yourself to the till. That's the basics in the office. Then when you come out, the first thing you want to do is grab your dough for your lunch, and then you want to go back into the walk-in cooler and get this done. Because if you do this first thing in the morning, first of all, it's out of the way for the rest of the day. 2, if you need to push dough, you have time to push it through the day. If you wait till the afternoon, it's going to be a lot harder to get to it because the phones are ringing and those kind of things. First hour in the morning, you have plenty of time to be in the walk-in cooler with the door shut, and it really doesn't take this long. If you really are attacking this every single day like you're supposed to, you're probably talking 5 to 7 minutes of maybe making a stack, bringing maybe day 2 out, splitting it up, down stacking. It really doesn't take that much time. So we just want to attack it first thing. It should be like maybe the 3rd or 4th thing you do in the morning of the big items that you're trying to get done. And then once you've done your dough management, grab everything for your make line, and then get your make line completely stocked, get your cheese pulled out, all those things. And by that time, your alarm's probably going off for your safe.